I'm a little counterculture, but also I know what it is. I mean, we talked to some parents. There's one parent that we talked to. Her kid didn't do any drugs and was so proud that he was the only one in his friend set that didn't drink. And he did kratom because he had heard that it was really good for working out, which you see in our documentary.
Yep.
And he heard it was really good with mental focus because I think maybe he had some
Maybe some ADD.
ADD stuff. And
I think he's gone in less than a month.
and he
Or
died.
right at a
I think it
month.
was 6 weeks. He didn't even know what he didn't stand a chance. That's
who the film's for.
that's who the film's for. I mean, honestly.
Forecast to be a nearly $16 billion industry.
It has taken me months to find who actually was making these kratom products.
I was looking for Peyton Palalio, who owns OPMS.
We got to get ahead of this stuff. It's here. It's happening.
When are you supposed to call 911? When you're delusional? When you're throwing up? Or when you pass out and they left out the last one? You die.
Hello and welcome to the Dr. Suzette Glasner podcast. Today I'm joined by Jason and Jamie Neese, twin brothers who've worked as filmmakers with roles spanning writing, directing, and producing. They've helped shape some of the shows that I'm sure you're binge watching, from The Umbrella Academy to Cruel Summer, Unreal, and Dear White People, and the list goes on. And they've now turned their lens to directing a documentary called Kratom, Side Effects May Include. If you caught my most recent episode on Kratom and 7-OH, you know that I've spent a lot of time on the science and policy side of the Kratom story. Today, I have the opportunity to get something different from the Neese brothers. What it was actually like to make this film, who you are as filmmakers and as brothers, and what this project has changed in you personally. Jason, Jamie, thank you so much both for being here.
Great to be here.
Thanks for having us.
My pleasure. So I'm going to start with talking about your trailer for Kratom, Side Effects May Include. You used a clip of Joe Rogan talking about Kratom. And incidentally, I used the same clip in my episode from about half a year ago before I even knew about your film. And my episode was called Joe Rogan on Kratom, Getting the Facts Straight. It's interesting that we both landed on that moment, but for different reasons. So I was using it to dig into the science behind what people are hearing about Kratom, while yours showed just how normal talking about Kratom has become. So I wanted to get from your lens, why did you pick that clip? And what did making this film teach you about the difference between getting the facts straight and telling a story people can actually connect to?
Well, I think for us, neither one of us had ever heard of kratom, which is wild because I feel like I had heard of everything. So when we started kind of running through the archives of everything, one of the things we really wanted to showcase was the fact that it spans far and wide. So when you have someone like Joe Rogan, who's like super savvy on a lot of things, from bodybuilding to conspiracies to political viewpoints and everything else, it was interesting to kind of see his take. And he's kind of down, right? Like he's down to experiment with a lot of stuff. And so we were just fascinated with someone of his caliber that was talking about it so kind of nonchalantly in a way with a comedian at one point. And it was just interesting. I think also for us, we wanted to kind of show that it's out there on maybe a celebrity level as well for some people.
Yeah, and I think you even see in the film that there's a clip later on where he's updating and talking about there's deaths attributed to it and stuff. So you kind of got to see his real-time evolution with it. We thought that metaphorically worked really well for the audience at large. And you said it, talking normal about something. I think the answer going to your second question is like the whole film is really about us taking an examination at these substances that are in innocuous locations like gas stations or smoke shops and kind of pitched as innocuous things or supplements for health or whatever, and how that mentally is giving people like you and I this false sense of security. And like all the victims in our movie, they were in over their head before they even knew they were in water that was deep.
Well, I think that that's a good point. A lot of people, we all know it. You can find it in the gas station next to the Sweet Tarts, right? So the 5 Hour Energy and all that stuff. But I think maybe even, and we tried to get on actually the Joe Rogan show, but there were scheduling issues. But I think that even for someone like Joe, to see him talk about the way he did at first and to see how he talked about it as the evolution of his knowledge happened, I think that that's very representative of people on planet Earth that start with kratom in a way that's like, oh, this is good for mental focus, energy, and then, oh no, I'm now at KA because I'm so addicted to something that I thought was just a fun, safe alternative to alcohol or drugs.
Yeah, no, all great points. I mean, I thought that the moment when he said, I think it's an opiate, but it's kind of like opiates, and that's on my show, because that was like 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And people are still in that same kind of state of confusion or lack of clarity about what it is, what part of the brain it acts on. And so, from different lens, I think we were both seeking to bring some clarity to a very confusing kind of product that's sitting out there.
I think that anybody in the counterculture world that's experimental, and this goes way back to the beginning of time probably, but I think that people that are willing to experiment and to try to open their brain, like, it's a dangerous thing for them because we don't know exactly how it works. And that's the group of people that might find themselves in the biggest, in the most dangerous of situations when it comes to a substance like kratom.
Yeah. And you know what? I would draw an analogy even further to other substances that are prescribed. So with opioids, the beginning of the opioid crisis related to painkiller addiction was, this is prescribed by a doctor, and my doctor's telling me that it's safe to take it.
Exactly.
And then when we started doing addiction research on kids who were taking opioid painkillers, a lot of them were getting it from their mom or dad's medicine cabinet. And the perception was, well, their doctor prescribed it, so like it's probably fine.
So even when it's through the right protocol, we still have challenges, right? So the idea that this substance is just like gray zoned out across America makes it even more terrifying. I think.
Well, I mean, the point that you brought up time and again in the film is the fact that there's no labeling, so people don't have a basis for making a decision about what they're putting in their bodies. Like, oh, is this enough? Is this too much?
Even scarier, they're making their own decisions. They're like, one little bottle, that's one.
Yeah,
that's
it
one.
looks harmless.
So I took one.
Yeah, I mean, I think that anybody on planet Earth, if they were told, if you take ZQuil and you take a Tylenol together, you possibly could go into cardiac arrest, they're going to think twice about it. And I think that where we're at right now, and one of the reasons why we want to do this, because we're not like teetoters or anything like that. I mean, I have my own issues in this world, but knowledge is power. And during the course of this documentary, I don't want to ruin it for people that haven't seen it yet, but we're finding correlations with interactions that haven't been studied. And for us as a community of human beings, we must protect each other and give each other the knowledge to know what we're doing.
And that was just us as documentarians talking to people. Imagine if they did real studies, what they might find is pretty scary.
Right. I mean, that was one thing that came through to me through my scientist lens, was a lot of questions were bubbling to the surface in my mind about, oh, kratom hasn't been studied in this way. I mean, one of them we were just talking about before we started was the research hasn't been done around how many people starting out taking kratom powder progress to using kratom extracts and then become addicted.
Well, Patti says it, right? She probably talked about it when I hear you spoke to her.
Yes.
We love Patti. What a strong woman. But at one point, she actually says your freshman year of high school could be raw leaf and tea, and it's just an example, but by your high school senior year, you could be taking 4 to 6 extract pills a day.
Right.
Because we know the deal. I mean, like, tolerance is a powerful thing.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, that's part of the path to addiction. It's not the whole story. Okay, so we're going to come back to this, but I actually want to back up a little bit and talk to you a little bit about your relationship as brothers. I was thinking about sort of the twin lens and twin research, and maybe you have delved into some of this just out of curiosity, but there is this concept in twin psychology of what's referred to as de-identification. Have you heard this? This is jargony, but I'll explain what it means. So it's just twins pushing hard to be seen as separate people.
Oh, that's a thing.
Rather than a single unit, right?
That's a thing.
And sometimes, I think often, with parents or schools deliberately separating you in order to sort of foster or encourage that.
Also a thing.
Okay, so I imagined. So, I mean, you two eventually did the opposite. You converged into, the same profession and became creative partners. What was your version of that typical push toward de-identification, if it existed for you?
We didn't have
Well, hold on. No, I was the red twin. You were the blue twin.
Right.
That's about as far as it went. Our mom, God bless her, she put me in red and she put him in blue, and that would help people because we were mega identical as kids. I'll let him speak, but we were always like,
Yeah, I think it actually started with our parents, who we came from such a loving household. Whatever that fostered in us was beautiful and was a good starting point. But yeah, Jamie and I, we never sought to de-identify from one another. In fact, we kind of saw it as a superpower. I think all growing up, we chose to be college roommates. We chose to live together, and we drove out to LA. He got married is the only reason we had to stop living together, because that would be weird.
That would be weird. I will say, one wasn't good at math and one good at reading either. I mean, we just both share the same passions. I mean, growing up, we're 6'5" twins from North Carolina. You were playing basketball if you were 6'5" twins from North Carolina. So we were the Twin Towers from 1994 throughout our high school career. And we both had a passion for writing. And we both worked at different video stores, Action Video, God rest their souls. And, but I hear you. Whenever we meet twins, because there's a lot of us out here nowadays, and my wife always laughs at this, but she doesn't anymore. She gets it now. The first thing I ask is, well, do you guys like each other? And it's 65-35 love. But there's always that 35% that had to live in different states, do different careers. And it's the thing, man. I mean, identity is such an important thing for all of us, especially in this social media world, TikTok, Instagram. We all want to be special, right? And we are all special. But now there's a limelight that a lot of people feel they need. I mean, we live in Los Angeles, so perhaps we feel it a little more than others. But I understand why young folks growing up that look exactly like someone else would want to feel like their own, because the thing about it is that it's not, I don't know if as much as about the twins is about the people around them, because there's this tendency to consolidate. And it's we're very confident people, and we were like, we're going to LA and we're going to be filmmakers and blah, blah, blah. And so we felt very strong. We're going to write short stories and novels.
We had each other,
and but the consolidation, it almost would call it the consolidation effect of the community around you. Some people can't deal with being asked 100 times, well, did you swap girls, or can you feel what he's thinking? And other people can just take it and just have fun with it. We were the have fun with it, and I wouldn't say exploit it, but like he said, we looked at each other and saw an opportunity to go out into the world and make it our superpower. And it was before the worlds of a lot of twin filmmakers. Nowadays, you see a lot of Duffer Brothers, North Carolina guys, or all these other. There's a lot of brother, sibling, twin, sister groups.
Are there really?
Yeah, there's a lot of filmmaker brothers and sisters. But again, in a way, we felt like it was our leg up in a mass sea of really creative artists that are coming to LA every year to try to make it. We were trying to butt our way to the front of the line, utilizing it.
Yeah, and even to the point, I have a novel coming out in 3 months, and
exciting. What's it about?
And it's about twins, but it's nothing like Jamie and I are. I mean, we're going to get this question like 1 trillion times when it comes out, but this is actually, I guess, looking at that jargon that you were just talking de-identification.
Yeah.
That's exactly what the book's about. Now that I'm listening to you talk about it, and it's about these twins. One twin kind of being done with being part of the brand in life, and which we also have a script on, But the novel, I'm gonna ask if that has. I'm be like that has nothing to do with how I feel about Jamie and our experience together. But it was interesting to me because we know that it's so prevalent within the twin community.
Oh yeah, no, we literally have a TV show called The Brand about two twins that are like Tony Robbins styled speakers, and one's like, I'm out, I can't do this anymore, and the other guy's like, well, wait a minute, my entire life, career, and money is attached to us. You can't be out.
Yeah.
So it goes exactly to your point.
And that's a real thing too.
fascinating.
That's a real thing too. And that's where it can get a little bit more complicated maybe, but not for us. We think it's a fun adventure.
Yeah, well, you embraced it, and then I think it probably stirred some, not that you need much stirring, but you stirred some creative juices in you around imagining a different twin
I got a
scenario
whole
in the
novel out
relationship.
of it.
That's the
That's
novel.
pretty good.
That's
That's
imagining
pretty
it
good.
was completely different, like
Yeah.
kind of polar opposite.
It was the whole reason in a lot of ways that we took on this story, and I'm sure you're going to get to that.
Yeah.
But there was no saying no to writing and directing this feature documentary after we heard Patti's story.
Like we said yes before. We said yes to the story before we said yes to what made the story be a thing.
Because of the
we
twin
didn't
element?
know. Yeah, absolutely. Because that was horrifyingly fascinating to us. The idea of prematurely not only losing your twin brother, but him passing away in your arms traumatically. I mean, I think there was almost like I need to do. I'll speak just for myself in this, but like, I need to do this so I can conquer how incredibly terrifying that sounds to me.
Yeah.
And it was sad, and we went through this insane emotional journey with Patti and Joanne and the rest of the people, and you know, Wyatt and Gannon. Whether only one of them was there physically, but it felt like both of them were there throughout this kind of 1.5 year long process that oftentimes included driving the country and kind of living underneath the spirit of that loss inside of twinship.
Well, Patti brings, I mean, I know you can say it physically, but she's also like spiritually, like she brings Wyatt everywhere. Like when she was sitting in this seat,
100%.
and
Literally.
she had the urn
Huge,
and
yeah,
a
she
photo
Always.
of him.
Yeah.
There would be no place on planet Earth that Patti is without
That's right.
that.
And I could feel the way she was carrying his presence, so I can only imagine that intensity of the time that
I
you
mean,
spent
it
with her.
felt for us at times we're like, I don't even know how she's doing this, because every single interview, every single location, every single moment working on the film, you could just see it on her face, like it kind of tearing her apart. But she like has to do this. Like it's so much bigger now.
Yeah, I
think in
mean,
her mind.
if she can work through it, then we're working through it.
Yeah.
Well, she has to do it to keep it from tearing her apart.
Yes.
Was my take, is that this is the way she can channel.
It's definitely therapy.
Yeah, I mean,
And sadly, her tragedy is going to save many lives.
Oh, yeah.
Many lives. It's the only reason we're sitting here. Jamie and I would have probably still be sitting here not knowing what Kratom was, to be completely honest.
No, I'd be asking you a lot of questions instead of answering a
yeah,
lot.
you
these
could
days.
answer them for me. Well, this is kind of very personal and maybe dark, but I did have that thought that I wanted to ask you guys if you've ever been in a situation where either of you, even for a moment, were afraid of losing the other, or the safety or mortality of the other before you encountered Patti.
We've had situations, but not that. I mean, he cracked his head open and it was in the ER, and that was a really traumatic situation when we were 7 riding our bikes, and that was bad.
Yeah.
And I had a situation with an allergy medicine that was the wrong one, and I went into
Anaphylactic shock. Oh, scary.
Yeah, it was bad. I was like,
But we were kids, so you don't really understand
No,
the
not
mortality. In our adulthood, we've been pretty blessed that we haven't had to have anything, I think, that felt like imminent loss.
No. I mean, and the other thing I say all the time is that yes, obviously we were twins, and so of course we can very much feel it. But anybody could relate to that. I mean, you don't even have to be twins to relate to the Wyatt and Gannon story.
No.
And it really was just kind of knowing and hearing the stories that I heard. Like Jason said, I didn't get to meet him, but I felt like I know him well. it was just a lack of information and the insanely easy opportunity to obtain. I could literally walk out on Sunset Strip, and because we went to the smoke shop right down the way,
just to see.
and it's everywhere. But anyway.
Okay, my last twin question is, there is some research on twin pairs' work histories, and what it's shown is that when both people are actively sharing leadership and responsibility, rather than settling into a situation where one is dominant and the other one is deferring, they tend to collaborate more effectively, and the partnership like holds up better over time. So practically,
100%.
okay, so you've experienced that. I was wondering, like, how do you divide creative authority when you're directing together? Is it usually equal, or does one of you sort of naturally?
It changes all the
lean?
time. We just say it's like it literally. We just know when one is needed here and the other one's needed
It's
there.
such a strange thing. We've been asked this question so many times. I mean, we typically work in scripted narrative.
Right.
Shooting a feature documentary was insane and very different. So in scripted narrative land, when we're writing or producing or directing stuff, a lot of times one's working with camera and one's working with talent. And it's a really, it's the one time when people are like, oh man, I wish I had a twin. I could be at two places at once. It's super true. And also with our writing, it's all about trust. And when it comes to writing, it's the same thing every time. It doesn't, someone has an idea. We both decide if we like it. We outline together, and then whoever kind of like felt the most passionate about the idea will take the first pass, and then pass it whenever they get bored or they get blocked or the other guy starts hounding them because they want to take a pass at it, and then you just go back and forth. There's not a lot of the bickering and lack of trust that maybe you would see with some partnerships that aren't blood. I guess I don't know. Like we have a very weird workflow. Like we don't stand on pedestals that are different heights. We look at we always call it a problem, but it's a fun problem. We always look at the situation we're in and how do we execute at the top level. And typically executing at the top level isn't going to be standing side by side. It's going to be a little talk to the corner and then us doing it. And then we always reconvene. When it comes to directing, sometimes we're both standing behind the camera. We've both kind of gotten really good at not overwhelming people with both of us. So if someone's vibing the lead, the other one kind of retracts.
Yeah.
Because, as an actor, you don't want these 2'6'5" bearded men just both coming at you, because you need to be delicate to that.
Yeah.
But it's always been like that. And it started with the writing, but then we were post-producing and producing TV and film for years, and we learned our places in a very weird twin way.
Well, it sounds like you have like a very genuine and deep respect for each other. So one is not trying to
No. Now that right there would be the end of it.
Yeah.
If there was any sense of competition in my 2 cents, then the partnership is not going to flourish in pure creativity. Because the reason I love this so much is that we can get a lot more done. We're super prolific just by the fact there's two of us.
Yeah.
But the idea that I'd be like the better writer or the better director, that is not even available to me. Because for us, the product is the hero of what we do, whether it's the script or if we're directing a scene or something. So we just feel like we get a little bit of an edge that we're so blessed to create through a spark that we have from being twins.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I think it is kind of like reminds me in a way of like a sports team mentality. It's like when you win, the team wins.
It goes back to our look. We thought we were 6'5" when we were 13, so we were we had college recruits. We played very competitive AAU and high school basketball. We were offered some scholarships to smaller D1 schools. We thought we were just going to be NBA. So and we were very competitive in cross country as well. And so for us, it is that. So we have each other, but then we have these other guys on the team with us. And so a lot of times, hopefully, perhaps the way that we were relying on each other could bleed out into the teamwork of all five.
And I would also, Jim and Catherine Neese, the folks that raised us and our parents.
And I saw them at the screening, right?
You met them.
Yeah,
Mom and Dad were there. They absolutely had no interest in that being a part of our daily life whatsoever. Oh, really? They loved raising us as both beautiful but our own person, the blue and the red and all the, I mean, we have photos where we were dressed identical, back in the 80s or whatever. But like, that was more of a fun thing.
Yeah.
But, like, for my mom and dad, they wanted to make sure, that that both of us always knew that we were equally loved. There was, like, I don't know how they were able to accomplish it, but that neither ever felt favored growing up. So I think that all
That's
that
huge.
kind of played a
Yeah.
big role for us.
Well, that
It's
was a big part of
interesting, though.
your confidence is part of that.
Oh yeah,
For sure,
Well, I
yeah.
do think that twins a lot. Well, either they're so lost in the sauce of de-identifying, like you were talking about, then they're probably very retreated and not. But most of the twins that we know or have met over the
Yeah.
years are really confident because, and even my godkids are twins, and you've never been alone. I mean,
Right.
you literally almost every twin lives with their brother or sister until like age 5 or 6 or 7. So like literally your first 7 years, you're just together. So a lot of the things and a lot of the traps that I think young folks have to deal with growing up and figuring out who they are, you get to practice early on, right? And so, yeah, I think that's why you find a lot of confidence in a lot of twin people.
Well, you probably learned a lot of the skills you use today, like negotiating,
all of
figuring out
that.
what each of you want and how to make
I
it
think
work
that
together.
Just
right?
knowing that someone truly does like have your back in
Yeah.
this like kind of like it just can't be broken. Even, I mean, siblings, for sure, we're not acting like we're like we're above siblings. No, it's not like that at all. But there is just something like one other weird extra sense of closeness if you do decide to lean into the partnership, this
Yeah.
twin partnership. That is very hard to explain. I'm not sure we've ever even talked about it this much, but yeah, it definitely feels like a superpower. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's definitely the way that you've channeled it it has emerged as a superpower. So, I mean, the next set of questions I had for you is around why this film, how it landed on your radar. I think you kind of shared that.
Well,
already.
I can say that. Well, I told you about why. I mean, I'll say this: Joanne Rubino, a producing friend, partner of ours who you've met, through our manager, we were set up with her on another scripted thing, and we have other projects together. But honestly, at the end of the day, she was the one that really ran the football down the field, so to speak, to make sure we got to the end zone on this because she's been around a long time. She's a very seasoned producer, and she felt very strongly. And I'm sure there were other people being pitched, there's a million people that can direct a documentary.
Sure.
But she really championed us. Said, Patti, she was like, Patti, you got to meet these guys. And, we met Patti, and I think that very quickly we were very kindred souls because I think she felt the way about her twins is the way our parents felt about us. So it was almost like it was just a given when we met, like within 5 minutes that we were going to do this.
Yeah, it was an instant bond and connection because you kind of understood each other in a way. Before this project, had addiction touched your lives personally in any way? Anybody you knew or yourselves in any way you're comfortable talking about?
I mean, not me.
Yeah, I mean, not really, like, not pivotally. I mean, yes, there's some, I mean, well, I don't.
I mean, look, I'll say this. We've had friends over the years that have had addiction. A lot of times it's alcoholism, and perhaps sometimes I've had friends back in the day that were definitely doing a lot of cocaine. Mm-hmm. Now, have I experienced anything on the level of what Patti or what these... I mean, if you watch the doc, it's not just her. He interviewed more moms to dead kids than I ever want to interview again. God bless them. There's a whole world of parents that are sitting there scratching their heads at how their sons or daughters are dead right now on something that never heard of. Have I personally dealt with it on that level? No. I've known a lot of people that have had addiction. A lot.
And I will say, maybe I've decompartmentalized it, but I started a poetry zine when I moved to Los Angeles because poetry was really important to me. And it was called Kill Poet. And I started it with a guy named Billy Brazier. And I lost him actually to addiction. He'd been sober for, I think it was like 8 years. And he had a relationship fall apart, and then he was dead within a month. But, as hard as that was for me to deal with as like a 27-year-old, I think I was really young.
Yeah.
This still feels like more like a PSA because I feel like the addiction issues that I've seen with friends that we've lost or I've lost still feels different because you know what you're getting into when you start like shooting heroin. And for this, it's just so, I was like Jamie said earlier, knowledge is power. Like, man, if you want to keep rocking and rolling with Kratom, go with God. But like, you need to at least understand.
Yeah, I think that's
what
the
it
difference
is.
here, because I bet if you talk to 20 people on the street, 19 would say they've had someone in their lives that's fallen to addiction. But every single one of those people, whether they said it out loud, knew what they were getting into. And again, we are not trying to sit here saying, look how high and mighty. I have done a lot of stuff in my life, and I still love to drink wine. So, I mean, I know what it is, though. And I know that I need to take days off, and I can only have so much, and I need to do blood work to make sure that everything's in line. Like,
Right.
Again, I'm a little counterculture, but also I know what it is. I mean, do we talk to some parents? There was one parent that we talked to. Her kid didn't do any drugs and was so proud that he was the only one in his friend set that didn't drink. And he did Kratom because he had heard that it was really good for working out, which you see in our documentary.
Yep.
And he heard it was really good with mental focus, because I think maybe he had some
Maybe some ADD.
ADD stuff. And
I think he's gone in less than a month.
and he
Or
died.
right at a
I think it
month.
was 6 weeks. He didn't even know what he didn't stand a chance. That's
That's who the film's for.
that's who the film's for. I mean, honestly.
So then it was clear to you sort of the format of a feature documentary was like the right.
Well,
did you debate that?
No, because we're both like incredibly, like when I go home, I'm more apt to turn on a feature doc or a true crime docu-series or a docu-follow like 100-Foot Wave, or even on the other days like 90 Day Fiancé or other unscripted stuff.
Oh, wait, admit that out loud.
I'm more apt to go there than I actually am to go to scripted. So for me personally, I was like incredibly excited as a filmmaker what that felt like to do what Jamie and I would script out as a cross journey kind of hunt.
I think
for
that
people.
if we come from TV, so I think if we had a studio behind us or a network, or we had distribution on the front end, which isn't how it works with features, we would have pushed really hard for like a 4-part docuseries. And actually, we're having conversations about either a follow-up or turning this into a 4-part, because we find it interesting throughout the history of mankind how drugs kind of wiggle their way in through loopholes, and the next thing you know, we supersize them, and then we exploit human beings to make money. I mean, everybody knows the coca leaf to cocaine and everything else.
Right.
But I think that for what Patti was willing to do and what made sense in the moment, it seemed like it needed to be a feature film documentary
for sure.
instead of like a episodic, because we knew that it'd be easier for us to get this out quicker.
For sure.
Yeah.
And then it's also very clear that you're disseminating scientifically based information. We'll talk
Yes.
about that too, but that is like designed to educate. So
It was
there's
important.
no
Correct.
ambiguity about what the intention is and what people should take
Yes.
away from it.
It's a
Yeah.
hard balance though at times.
Well, we
Oh,
can.
yeah.
I'm sure we'll get into it, but I was never interested in a hit job. I was interested in education for myself. I mean, because what people watching that documentary was our journey of education. I mean, big time. I would never have the confidence to talk about 7-OH and Kratom and this, that, and the other the way that I do without that journey to get there in the feature documentary. But we had to tell both sides of the story, and we had to figure out a way to disseminate the science behind it.
Yeah.
And we had to do both because we didn't want to bore people, but we also didn't want a Jerry Springer sensationalized sting. So
Right.
where's that balance,
But
right?
That's the art in it.
that's it.
Yeah, yeah. But that's like a cool puzzle for your.
Yes,
for
the
you
twins
guys
did the
as
puzzle. How do we solve? I said it earlier. How do we solve the puzzle? And a lot of times when we were running around, sometimes he couldn't come, so he might be back working with the editor here in
Mm-hmm.
LA, and I might be wherever, and then we'll both be there, and then he might be talking to the next person being interviewed while I'm shooting,
And it wasn't even just the balance of science, but honestly, it was also the balance of how devastating emotionally it was for the parents we were interviewing, moms. Yeah. So we had these two things, and then somehow we were meant to also have some entertaining journey to come with us, which I think we did by
You did.
literally hitting the country and knocking on doors and stuff, which we didn't mean disrespectful. We just honestly wanted to hear the people that were making these substances, what they wanted to talk about with us.
I felt like that came through, by the
I
way.
hope so.
Like you were really genuinely wanting to learn more. This
Yeah,
has
it wasn't
become
like I was.
No, we were.
It wasn't like I was
Yeah.
throwing red paint on the fur if I,
Right.
got to you. It was literally like where are you coming from? What's your mindset?
Right.
What if I asked you A, B, and C? And I think the closest we got was Mac Haddow, our lobbyist,
Yes.
for better or worse. But I just wanted to know. And I thought that like Joe Sokol was interesting because he sells raw leaf and he's dead set against the extract. So there's like so many different versions. There's the people that are like, fuck Kratom forever. Everything should be illegal.
Yep.
Screw you. There's like the Joes, only the powder. There's like Nanette Champagne, who would tell you and her partner that if they didn't have raw leaf powder, they would probably be dead because they were so addicted to pharmaceutical pain reliever medicines. And then you have all these moms with 18 to 25-year-old kids that didn't even know they were killing themselves. So, wow, what do you do with all that, right? The only way you can really tell that story is to try to run down the middle a little bit.
Right.
That's the only way you can do it, I think.
Yeah. I thought the film did an amazing job. You guys did an amazing job with really getting the addiction science right.
Oh, good.
And yeah,
Good.
and I do want to ask you a little bit about how you achieved
We
that.
talked to smarter people than us.
Way smart. Everybody you talk to is smarter than us. So that was
And our specialist, our
One step.
addiction specialist, was a really close friend of ours in college. And we all went off on our own ways. And she reached out. I think Jason did a post. Hey, has anybody ever heard of Kratom? He didn't even mention we were doing a doc. We were just curious. We were in the
Right.
early stages of prep.
Yeah.
And I think that Stoner hit you up.
Yeah.
That's her last name.
But there's an irony there.
Yeah, we would make. And
She knows it too.
Yeah, she knows it too.
Yeah,
It's fine.
can't
We
live
love
that
you.
down.
But
Yeah.
anyway, she reached out, and I was like, "This is amazing. This is amazingly perfect."
And she was the one that was given a lot of that information kind of by a staircase in the film. You know, younger blonde. She was like really kind of going off.
Yeah, I
But
remember her.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
it was just fabulous. She was a plethora of knowledge, and honestly, she was terrifying. And the reason she's terrifying is because she made me realize that we actually don't know. We don't fully know what Kratom does to you because we are so far behind the 8 ball. We say it in the documentary. We were like 5 or 10 years behind on studying the raw leaf when the extracts came out. So
Right.
we're barely even touching that now. And think about how far down the road this epidemic, if you want to call it, has gone. If you believe the numbers, it's very sad.
Yeah. Well, and there's very little research on the extracts that are on the shelf right now. So, I mean, when I say you did a great job representing the science, it was what we do know
yes.
and also explaining the regulatory landscape because it's very complex.
That was important.
That was important. And then also being able to acknowledge what we still don't know
Yes.
and what we can only learn from anecdotal experiences at this moment, like the ones that
Right.
you're showcasing through
Yeah.
the film.
Yes.
So yeah, part of what I was wondering was how you vetted information to make sure that you were
Yeah.
presenting accurate data and expertise.
Well, I got to be honest with you. A couple of times we revised our chyrons throughout the movie because there had been new numbers, new studies,
Yeah.
and we were constantly vetting. I mean, again, my wife a little bit, Elizabeth helped field produce, but Joanne and Elizabeth.
Yeah, we had whole clearance teams.
vetting. We had a whole clearance.
But we're
team.
also working with people that are some of the leading scientists in this field.
I saw.
So it didn't take us too long to understand that if we got to, triple check, which we did, all the information we got, at least we're at a better starting point with these scientists.
But those numbers are totally evolving.
Oh, yeah.
And we don't, it's like what I said earlier, maybe we don't know exactly how many people are on planet Earth because sometimes we can't get it exact. And in this case, if you don't get it exact, people die. I'm pretty sure.
See, that was the thing, like you were saying earlier, I want to say one more piece about that. I was like, part of the film was saying we don't know what we don't know. Like, there's a lot of substances that might be helpful in our society that once they're deeply regulated, I know a lot of people hate that word, it's such a bad word, but like if we didn't know how much Tylenol a person is meant to take, they could destroy their organ. But now instead we have a very effective pain reliever that we know how to prescribe in a very safe way.
Well, we also know
It's
what.
literally the example is that easy on that small of a level. Out of nowhere, Tylenol goes from some. I mean, people have committed suicide using Tylenol because they know how to way overdose on it or whatever. But like before we even knew how to have any sense of prescripting of it, it was still an unknown. So Is there a world where Kratom in 10 years from now, 20 years from now, they figure out a way to make it so it actually is safe? Who knows? But we haven't even started that conversation yet. So
I mean, just to start with how much to take. I mean, like Jason said, don't take Tylenol on an empty stomach. For God's sake, don't drink on it. Don't take more than like 2,500 milligrams over 24 hours. We have none of that. So as an 18-year-old kid, we're just supposed to expect that they see a fun bottle that looks like a 5-hour energy. Well, from where I'm sitting, that bottle is a dose.
That's one. When I go to a bar and I take a shot, when I do this action as an 18-year-old, I'm doing one at a time.
And you're drinking illegally.
So, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, emotionally or psychologically, we got to think about our kids that are at this age where they're experimenting with things in college, even just as young adults. And there's a ritual behind this.
Yeah.
And we didn't really get into that. But
no, that's a good point, because as someone who practices in addiction care, I teach people how to measure how many drinks they've had, because a lot of people go, I have one drink a day, but they're pouring a triple, and that's actually 3.
Right.
And we do have guidelines from research on how many pose health risks.
Exactly.
Right. So I can tell people, hey, if you're a man, don't have more than 5 drinks in a single sitting.
Exactly.
That's binge drinking, and binge drinking carries X and Y health risks, addiction risk, etc.
And you can't say any of that about
You can't say any of that.
And our, one of our, I think in I know in the doc it said, not all spirits are created equal. I think it said it all.
Yeah.
A White Claw and Everclear are not the same, amount. So.
You're speaking my language in that part.
Yeah. And then we showed it to people, because if I'm sitting there watching at some point, just hearing it as a viewer, I'm going to kind of start checking out. So we thought the graphics really start.
So important.
I think help a little bit, simplify it a little bit.
Yeah, our mantra is just always like, know what you're putting in your body, and then do it if you won't. But at least then we can say that we did our best to educate and label.
Yeah.
Just label.
Yeah. No, very well said. Because even in my channel, when I see the comments coming in every time I talk about Kratom or 7-OH, there really are these polarized views, right? Where some people say that was the worst thing I ever did in my life, that I've had the hardest time getting off of it, and don't do it no matter what.
Yes.
7-OH is horrible. Like I hear a lot of that. But then there are those, and we see them in your documentary, who say, whoa, it's really helped me. If you take it responsibly, you won't get addicted to it. Now, those individuals have some internal calibrator that's enabling them to take it and be okay at the moment. I don't know what will happen to them down the line if they continue to take it, because there's no science to tell us exactly.
Right.
There's very little science to guide us on how long is it safe to take Kratom. That's the other thing with medicines like opioids. Unfortunately, we had to get into the situation of this crisis and this very tragic period with all these overdoses to realize that opioids were being prescribed for long-term pain management, when actually they're only safe to take for short-term pain management.
Right.
So if you take that sort of analogy to Kratom, which has opioid-like effects, there's probably something in there in the way of dosing guidelines that could be developed.
There's gotta be. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I've taken my share of Vicodin, Percocet, and hydrocodone. I think watching Dope Sick was very revealing for me of the epidemic. Unless my arm's hanging off my body, I steer fully clear of that type of medicine. But guess what? I really liked it. You know why? Because it attaches to all those receptors. It
makes you feel really
good. Yeah,
good.
it makes you feel really, really good.
Yeah.
And
So that's interesting, because I had a severe back injury, and the only time I ever got nearly at all ever even touched Oxy was I was prescribed it to treat that in an acute way. But I hated it. Like I thought that the way it made me feel, I was like so shook at how dead I felt. Like
oh my God. Inside. And that's so weird since we're twins.
That is so interesting. With you being twins.
I would never be addicted to Oxy, which is it, because other people will be like, I think I just meant to finish that by saying it paralleled with the people we interviewed. Some people are like, well, no, I take it responsibly and it's really good for me. Other person's like, wow, I had to go to KA and it was worse than Oxy or heroin.
Well, it is. It's the body. The human beings we're so special because we're so different. 1 out of 2 people, either it made me sick and I threw up all night, or, oh my God, don't give it to me again because I love that shit. And look, again, Jason and myself, when this movie comes out, I'm never going to sit here and say, oh, I'm sober and this, that, and another. I like to have fun. I do things like that. But even those pills, man, even to this day, I really question how many people need to truly be on oxy. I mean, if you are really in mortal pain, that's one thing. But I remember a time when like a toothache got you a
This
Percocet.
definitely was overprescribed.
It was insane back in the late 90s, early 2000s, especially the alts.
That was the whole reason what you're saying. We had the crackdown because of that. Yeah.
Well, no, I'm just saying, but the point
dying.
being is that it was lack of knowledge, and I feel like we're way further behind the 8 ball, even on like Kratom and 7OH and all this stuff than that, because it doesn't feel like the FDA anytime soon is going to fully crack it down. I don't know. We had a very interesting experience in DC. I had no idea how much money was flowing through the lobbyist pockets when it came to fighting for Kratom versus against. So,
interesting.
It was a deal. It was a situation.
Oh, wow. Well, that actually relates to something I wanted to ask you about. So actually, this is the next thing I wanted to ask you about, which is, so neither of you came into this obviously as a toxicology expert or a Kratom researcher or addiction clinician. So, I thought, like I said, you did a great job bringing in both sides and really presenting this sort of balanced view. I really view your documentary as a must-see, that people can become educated about the reality and the different sides of this.
Great.
And then make their
That's
own
all we
decision.
literally want to do.
I will be recommending it left and right. I already have. It's just not quite out yet. But interestingly, so you, including, as you mentioned earlier, Mac Haddow, who's a central Kratom advocate, and he's from the American Kratom Association. So he has very strong opinions, obviously, about, how leaf kratom should be regulated or not. And he's since coming on to your documentary, he said publicly that Patti Wheeler has shifted from educating people as her sort of mission to pushing for a complete ban. It's not what, she initially envisioned, or that changed somewhere along the way, and that she's misrepresented the connection between Kratom and her son Wyatt's death. Do you have a reaction to that?
I mean, listen, for me, I don't think it's really healthy to even go too deep because the sides are so polarizing.
Yeah.
I mean, first off, we're talking about a woman that lost her son. And the other side, we're talking about a man that is, part of a major organization that advocates for Kratom. I think my reaction is that pain evolves and tragedy evolves when you lose a child. So if Patty's mission feels like it's evolving, it probably has something to do with this journey she's been on. Yeah. But I know Patti to be one as a fair human, and this film was set out to show both sides. So for as far as I know it, I was brought on to do a film of my brother about twins, made by twins, to look at Kratom in a way that society, we feel like, needs to see it, which is both sides. And I would like to think Mac would agree with us that we absolutely show both sides, and we give both sides a chance to speak if they chose to speak with us.
Yeah, my thing is that my job isn't to have an opinion on if Patty's evolving towards which way she wants to go. Just as if you told me Mac has decided that he's not an advocate for Kratom anymore, I wouldn't have a super large opinion about that either. I think as filmmakers, we have to disassociate ourselves from the super emotional side of that. I could never be in Patty's situation, and I could never be in Mac's situation. Day one, we sat down and said, this is not a hit job, and this is not a hit job against Kratom, and this isn't a pro Kratom. It's people and how they deal with Kratom, and how the government deals with Kratom, and how lobbyists deals with Kratom, and then the big money side of Kratom. So when it comes to Patti, I just have so much respect for her. I couldn't put myself in her head. It's such a crazy loss that she's had, that wherever she goes with it is where she goes with it. So,
okay, so what do you still not know about Kratom after making this whole film?
What happens in 20 years? What happens if you take a bottle of whatever, feel free or whatever is out there? What happens if you take that every day for 20 years? What happens to your body? What happens to your psyche? What happens to your mind? If I drink hard 20 years in a row, we know what happens. You don't even get 20 years if you're taking Vicodin at that level. You're going to go into renal failure.
Right.
or you smoke crack or meth or whatever it might be, you smoke cigarettes for 20 years, there's a good chance you might have cancer. But we don't know. And that's my question. And I just think it's fair to protect society until we have a little better answer.
Yeah. Well said. And I think, I, as somebody who's done addiction treatment research and has been part of teams even doing research on medications to treat addiction, I know how hard and slow it is to gain FDA approval for anything. But I also do see the value in the process of controlled research to understand what a drug is doing, what are the limits you can push it to, how you take it, how much you take it, what happens, and also like you're describing sort of over time what the consequences of using a substance are.
Yeah.
So
I mean, again, I'm in a tough situation. I don't know, no one's directly said, well, what do you think about kratom? I'm like, just watch the documentary. That's kind of how I feel about it. But it's hard to deny when you speak to someone that's been on it for 10 years and responsibly dosing themselves, and it allowed them to get off major narcotics. I spoke to 2 people again that were like, I don't even know where I'd be without it. And like, it's hard to refute that. I mean, that's a human being saying that's gone through some hardships.
yeah. I mean, the one thing that I wonder when I hear that, though, not that I'm disagreeing if that was their solution,
Right.
but is that there are a couple of FDA approved medicines for getting off of painkillers that work very well. So, and usually there are at least 3 that I'm thinking about right now. Naltrexone, methadone, and buprenorphine, also known as Suboxone. Naltrexone sometimes people struggle with, but usually if one class of medicines doesn't work, like the opioid replacement where methadone and Suboxone both fall, then there is an alternative like naltrexone and vice versa. So it's interesting to me that people are turning to kratom, and I do wonder if it's because of that perception that we were talking about earlier, that it's a powder, it's herbal, so it must be less harmful.
Well, the question's this, because a lot of the folks we talk to that are on it say that it's for pain management, and so they're basically saying, I need something.
Yeah.
I think we're circling back to what you said, though. In the minds of the public, if it's a supplement that's a powder from a leaf and it's there to buy over the counter, not even over the counter, like, it's going to be considered safe. So my answer to the earlier question, like, I think for me, the film is really not about the people that have like super specific ideas about kratom for themselves. It's really about the people that have no idea what they're starting a journey on with, especially with extracts.
Yeah. Well, and relatedly, not that I was really planning to go there about weed, but
Ooh, go there.
cannabis there are some parallels and similarities with once cannabis became more widely accessible, available, approved for recreational use, medicinal use, and all of that. The studies show that the perception of risk tied to using cannabis went way down.
Oh, sure.
So most people think it's safe. So then they're taking all these different formulations that aren't very well standardized in terms of dosages. So they're very potent in some cases.
Yeah.
And that is leading some people to hospitalization, psychosis. Not everyone. I'm not like you. I'm not categorizing all good, all bad, take it, don't take it. But this sort of like informed
The illusion
center
of safety is a scary thing.
It goes back to what I said. I think the majority of people on planet Earth want to follow the rules. And so guess what? The minute you're told, hey, you know what? We're just joking about the 60s and the 70s and like, the 80s and the lockdown of people for a joint. Nah, marijuana is okay. A lot of people started using it that hadn't used it in a long time because they weren't breaking the law anymore.
Right.
And that was interesting to me. And I also read a lot of studies that people, to your point, that people were taking such large percentage doses, which, I mean, insane, because everybody's trying to one-up each other or whatever, that like it was playing into dementia and psychosis. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
That's what we're seeing.
Yeah. Which was terrifying.
More of. And
the dementia thing was really interesting.
Yeah, the cognitive impairment, but then also like there's another condition that's called hyperemesis gravidarum, where people are taking it for nausea, but at a certain potency, it makes them uncontrollably nauseous and vomiting and going to the ER and dehydrated and all of that. So, but it's about the same thing. It's like, what's the safest way to take this? And, when it kind of becomes the Wild West in terms of potency and availability. it's a dangerous thing, a scary thing when the perception of risk goes down,
Yes.
and then all these new users of it sort of, who may have avoided it in the past, start to experiment with it in ways that aren't safe. Yeah.
No, I was, I mean, I remember when it first, because I mean, if you're in LA in the early 2000s, it was a whole different vibe going to like a cannabis shop. It was very shady. You had to get like your medicinal, and they were getting robbed, and it was very violent. And now it's like Toys R Us. And I've read an article, like so many people that hadn't smoked cannabis in 20 years were doing it again because their moral code didn't allow them to do it when it was illegal once they became adults.
Right.
And they went back to it, and they went back to it hard, and they weren't used to the 20, 25, 30% cannabis and the edibles and whatever else is out there compared to what was in the 70s and 80s, which is a very different thing.
It's different. It's
it's
different.
a whole different
what's
thing.
out there now. So long after the screenings and the reviews and the policy conversations are done, let's say if they ever are done, what part of this story do you think that you'll each still be carrying with you?
I mean, I think for me, I've said it a few times, it's just this whole fallacy of safety that we have of products that sit on shelves in American stores that you don't think could potentially kill you. I'll be haunted by these moms and them losing their sons in ways that seem insanely avoidable. And I think I'll take that with me as a father of two, and just really kind of how I look at products that are on the shelves for them.
Oh, for me, it's just all FDA and the people. I mean, basically what he just said. I mean, even right now we're experiencing some pretty severe situations with our lettuce and everything else going on out there. But I've watched enough documentaries on farming and agriculture and like the perception of what we provide for people and whether it's safe or not. And I think that for me, this is an extreme example, but I can't not think about every product that I buy or consume now, because it's just a group of people between saying it's okay or not. Like, it's still up to us to decide. Like me and my wife, we don't get bagged lettuce anymore, way before whatever is happening now. But we don't get anymore because we watched this terrifying documentary on like some FDA dudes that were like, I'll never buy lettuce that's not still whole because it could have come from 3 different farms, and it gives you a better possibility of getting whatever salmonella or lice, whatever it's called.
Right.
So I think about that now even more, walking around to we went to so many smoke shops and spoke to so many people, and none of them really knew what they were putting out into the world, not of any fault of their own, because that was what they were provided.
Right.
But you truly have to take a deeper look at what you're consuming and what you want to have in your body.
Yeah. It spans to so many different things.
Yes.
And we put a lot of things in our bodies. And I was always trained in graduate school when I was learning how to evaluate people, in terms of their medical history and psychological history and all of that, that you ask them if they're taking any medications, but you include supplements because there's a story behind what supplements do to the brain. Just because they are supplements or they're herbal doesn't mean that they're not acting on the brain and the body in some ways.
Yep.
Well, my doctors, because I don't take a lot of pills, but I've taken a lot of supplements over the years, they're always way more concerned with the dosage of whatever it might be, from NAC to vitamin B to magnesium to like whatever it might be. They're way more concerned with that type of stuff for me, because I just don't take a lot of pills. Yeah. So that told me right then and there, your body is this wonderfully complicated thing, and we talk about in the documentary, until you get that bad hand of blackjack, you don't know the combos that could accidentally kill you, and we saw that. And so for me, again, it's the people, it's those families, man. They'll haunt me forever.
Yeah. So Jason and Jamie, thank you both so much for genuinely for the honesty in this conversation, not only as it pertains to the documentary, but you as people and as brothers and your life and work together. And also how you decided what this film could responsibly say. Where can people watch the film, catch upcoming screenings, and follow what you're doing next?
We're in the middle of that right now, but it will be available pretty soon for people to watch. We just can't go quite into specifics for that yet. Yeah, but it'll be everywhere.
We're finalizing distribution and working with some really cool folks, but the ink hasn't dried yet. But hopefully by later this year, people everywhere will get to see it, because that's Patti's whole goal. I mean, she has been a roaring lion to get this thing out there, especially because we're seeing what's happening in the government and the FDA and the lobbyists and the approvals and the,
Right.
and everything that's happening with Kratom. Lots happening every day. You can find a new piece.
I mean,
of
we can make a
news.
whole second follow-up documentary,
Literally.
just off of what's happened since we finished this one. I mean, that's the
changing all the
sad, maybe
time.
exciting part, because I know it's been more of a serious conversation, but there have been, I think, positive things that are starting to occur.
Yep.
On a legislative
I agree.
side.
Sometime this year, though. Sometime. We're very confident. We've had some very good responses and feedback. And we really ran the gambit to speak to a lot of companies to make sure that the people we work with put it out thoughtfully and make it super accessible. And I feel like that's coming. So
Amazing. Well, I'll be providing updates to my audience as it gets closer to release, and really looking forward to seeing more people learning from you and all the hard work you put in.
well, thanks for what you do. You're getting it out there too.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
My pleasure.